Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a sloppy sports and entertainment talk show about the New York Giants, New York Mets, movies, TV, and a whole lot more. It's a giant mess, and I'm a giant mess. I'm your host, Neal Lynch, the real cinch, aka the real deal. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Oscars, my trip to the Great Wolf Lodge in the Poconos, my actual reviews of Gemini Man, Zombieland, Double Tap, and Parasite, something that I promised you last episode and I didn't get to, my B. And then we'll wrap things up with my thoughts about the Pharmacist. No Giants and no Mets this episode. I'm too far gone over the cliff this week to get to them. So let's get started with, I guess, my week. Rough week, not gonna lie. I'm officially over New York City. I'm done. And I know no one gives a shit. I'm from Jersey, so I'm pretty sure New York City is like, thank you, we don't need you. Peace, two fingers. Don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. So no love lost there. I get it. But the reason being why I'm over New York City for the millionth time, and I want to get the hell out of the Northeast in general. And I know a lot of Northeasterners are probably clutching their pearls hearing that, and probably very offended and hurt by those words that just came out of my mouth. There's nothing personal against you if you're listening to this or watching this and you hear that and you say, oh, Neal has a problem with me. No, I just have a problem with the Northeast. I just don't think I belong here. I don't know where I belong. I don't know where I fit. It's kind of a running theme for me. But New York City ain't it, Chief. It's the cultural mecca of the world, the greatest city in the world. You know, all the accolades are there. I don't need to run down the laundry list of things that New York City is or isn't. Just not for me. Just not how I want to live life. Just constantly angry and miserable and sad and confused and lost. And just I feel like the butt of the joke. And, you know, I'm okay with people laughing at me, but when I'd like to be in on the joke just a little bit more. What caused this reaction? Great question. My wife took my headphones. I mean, that's where this all started. It's something as simple as that. My wife thought they were her headphones. They look identical because they are identical. She took my headphones and I was left without headphones, which on an hour-and-a-half commute, one way, 3 hours of total commute time per day to work in a city that never fucking sleeps. You need headphones. You just need them to tune out the insanity that is New York City and this just horrific, brutal commute. When you're on the bus, you want to just listen to the dulcet sounds of Pardon My Take or Chris D'Elia, congratulations, or Armchair Expert, or Conan Needs a Friend. You just need a podcast. You need something to listen to in and out, just to kind of take your mind off the fact that you're going into the seventh circle of hell. And I didn't have my headphones, so kind of in a bad mood, you know, but I tried to rest and sleep on the way in. And of course, it's Monday morning. I think it was Super Bowl, the Monday after the Super Bowl. And I'm on the subway. And, you know, of course, the 7 is just like it either derailed or hit someone. Someone died yet again. And so it's late yet again. So we pack into it like a fucking tuna can. Bunch of anchovies just squiggling and worming around. Just want out. So that's the 7. And I gotta take the 7 to the 6. So this is after an hour bus ride. Then I take the 7, have to wait for it, jam packed. Then I have to like hustle and bustle like a fucking herd of cows to the 6 downtown. Make it on the 6 downtown, and there's a dude yelling at the top of his lungs. Not the top of his lungs. I apologize. He wasn't yelling at the top of his lungs, but it was like loud talking. Like, and he's not talking to anyone. And if he is, God bless the person he's talking to. He's not mumbling, but he's very incoherent in what he's saying. It's a rant. He's rambling, but it's not mumbling. You can very clearly hear all the words that he's saying. He's just putting them together in a very odd order. He just randomized. He hit the randomize button on his speech. It was like a really hardcore edition of Mad Libs. So he's just going on and on about rape, child molestation, saying that his father's father was a rapist, but he's not a rapist. No, wait, his father's father is not a child molester. Kobe's a rapist. Cosby's a rapist. Child molester, rapist, rape, child molester. And I'm thinking, bro, come on, man. Hungover from Super Bowl. It's Monday morning. No one wants to be on this subway car this early in the morning going to work. And you're in everyone's ear about rape and child molestation, stuff that is just like, I don't know, it's just, come on, guy, I'm going to work. Pipe down. But you can't say anything. And of course, a woman, and I'm like, this is like 1, 2, 3 stops. I'm 3 stops away. You add it all up, it's maybe 6 minutes, maybe 10. If someone gets hit by the fucking subway car again, because that happens every day. And this woman decides to take a stand. You know what? Godspeed. And she was like, I'm not one of your bitches. You can't talk to me like that. I'm not one of your bitches. And so he retorts with, I will beat you down. So after kind of taking this weird stance, holier than thou, like talking about rapists and child molesters and saying he's not that, he then immediately turns on a woman that stands up to him and asks him to pipe down and says, I'll beat you down. And then she gets off the subway car and we have to deal with the end results. Thank you, lady, getting off the subway car. Couldn't have held your comment for like 2 more minutes and just got off quietly. And maybe he like tires himself out. Nope. You just gave him a second wind. So she leaves. And then the doors close, and he just is like, he's a volcano. He's about to erupt, and you can hear his pitch escalating, his tone escalating. He's getting louder and angrier. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, way to poke the bear there, lady. Way to stick the bull. I mean, seriously, poke the cage. Why don't you? And at that point, it's like, if I'm wearing headphones, do I even pay this any attention? Do I even care about what the hell's happening? No, I'm listening to my podcast. I'm listening to Big Cat and PFT crack wise at the expense of Hank Lockwood. I'm listening to Chris D'Elia roast someone on Instagram. I'm melting away in the soothing sounds of podcasts that make me forget that I have a horrible job and a horrible city with a horrible brain that is toxic. Nope, no headphones. And so I can just hear this getting louder and louder. And I think to myself, okay, this is like, this guy could very easily just pull out a gun or a knife and just go ape shit on everyone in the subway car. And then that's how I say goodbye to this world. All because this nut job got pissed off at some lady that's not even on the car anymore. Also screaming racial epithets at her. Like, he's African-American, I assume. I don't know. I didn't run a test on him. I didn't run a DNA test. Sorry. And then the lady who got off was also African-American, I believe, from the looks of her. Maybe she's Dominican. I don't know. But if I had to pinpoint, if I had to guess, both African-American. And he's screaming pretty awful things at her. Gorilla, monkey ass, that kind of thing. And then he was like, well, I'm not, as if to say to us, I'm not like her. He goes, I'm light skinned. And like, we're all the whites on the subway car are going to be like, oh, thank God. We thought you were one of those blacks, those blackety blacks, the dark blacks, the bad blacks. I mean, come on, guy. So he's obviously not mentally stable. I'm not saying that I'm mentally stable, but this guy, a little more unstable than me. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking around like, They always say, see something, say something, but I've seen something and I have no, like, where do I say something? On the train, do I, like, there's nowhere that I can see in my car where it's like, press this button, eject the nut job in your subway car. So subway gets to my stop. I get off. I look around. I'm looking all the way down, all the way down. I'm looking right where I get off is like basically where the turnstiles are. There's no booth that's manned or womaned. No personnel, no security, no one in uniform, nada. So I'm like, all right, well, I was going to report this. I don't know what to do. So then I walk to work. I get on my computer and I go on the MTA website and I report it. I know that's a very white thing to do, I guess. So I've heard. Only the whites do it. Because snitches get stitches and most people aren't rats. But I am a fucking stool pigeon through and through. And if me reporting this guy maybe saves a life, great. Turns out, so I report it. They're like, thanks, we'll keep an eye on it. And turns out like later that week, I just got off the subway going home to the most depressing tunnel ever made from the 7 train to Port Authority. And there's the dude. And now he's in a wheelchair, apparently. And he's screaming at people going by. It's just like, maybe he got a little bit of sweet justice. Like he said the wrong thing to the wrong person. And now that's why he's in a wheelchair now. Or maybe he just stole the wheelchair and just literally ate someone alive that was in a wheelchair and took it over. That's not all. Thursday, I worked a very long day. Very long day. I had a splitting, raging headache. And guess what? No headphones. No headphones. So I go down the steps to the subway, go through the turnstiles, catch the car that's there. Thank God, right? I'm standing there and I just, the doors close. And as the doors close, I kind of look over to my right shoulder and a woman's just beating a guy over the head with her umbrella. Maybe they know each other. Maybe they don't. And to this day, this happened last week. I still don't know if they know each other. It was not clear to me. It could have been, could not have been. The woman's beating the guy over the head with the umbrella. Then she moves away from the guy, kind of follows, but then hangs back. And they're just shouting at each other from like, and I'm right in the middle. So this guy is by the door on this end of the car. And the woman is like kind of right beside me over here. And they're just shouting into my face at each other, not at me, but just into my face. Like my face is catching all of the profanity and volume. All the decibels are going straight through through all the pores of my face into my brain, and not good for my headache. So I've been told by the medical community. No headphones. If I had the headphones, tune that motherfucker out. But no. And she's just like, yeah, you my N-word. That's my N-word. That's right N-word. And he's just like, he's talking about his kid, possibly. And you're not fit to be their mom. And like, I mean, like just back and forth. Eventually the guy is like, acknowledges the fact that they're making a scene on the subway car. It took him probably 5 minutes of yelling nonstop to acknowledge, hey, we're making a scene on the subway car. The woman didn't give a fuck. She thought that he was weighing her down and that she's going to live this lavish lifestyle free of his, I don't know what you would call it, scrubbery. He's a scrub, you know? So that was nice. That was really good from headache. And I'm just standing there going, just wait it out. 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 Because anytime someone else gets involved in any of this bullshit, it always makes it worse. It never gets better when someone else steps in. So we just all have to sit there and wait patiently for these people to just like run themselves tired. African American gentleman, African woman, American woman. They appeared to be that way, just from my perception. Just yelling full bore right in my face. And I just had to take it. There's nothing good comes of it. If you remember from a previous episode, a woman loudly talking on her cell phone in the waiting area, nonstop. Someone comes and says, "Please, can you quiet down?" You just gave her like a bonus life. Her like health meter, like when you find a medical kit in the video games or like food and you consume it, it's like boop, 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 boop. Your health meter goes up. That's exactly what that does in those instances when people are fucking riled up. There's just nothing. You try to move cars without getting noticed because then they'll fucking call you out like, "You pussy." And it's like, well, I'm not even in this conversation. So yeah, need to get it far away from New York City, possibly all cities. I'm not city folk. We did get away from it all this past weekend. Went to the Great Wolf Lodge in the Poconos. I guess the last time I was in the Poconos was for that New Year's Eve in 2010, 2011. Didn't end well, but I had a great time at Great Wolf Lodge. Kind of, I don't know. I mean, Brielle, our baby daughter, is 17 months old, can say a few words, can walk, can run, but most of the activities at Great Wolf Lodge, not for her. There's a water park, huge indoor water park. Took her to that. There's a little splash area, and like, I don't know what it is about toddlers or babies, or maybe it's just our girl specifically, but like gets in water, and if it's not like jungle-like atmosphere, she starts shivering her tiny little booty off. So I think we went down like one slide, and then she, like, the teeth were chattering. What teeth she has were chattering and chittering. So I was just like, maybe we'd get her out of the water for a little bit. Very interesting setup that they have. So they have massive indoor water park, which is really cool. But then they have, all these other activities, the restaurants in the lodge, the resort or whatever. They have like a kind of Magic Quest type thing where it's interactive game. You get like a wand and you go around. There's all these little stations and you can stick your wand in it or around it. And like something speaks to you and you get clues and, stuff that I'm excited for Brie to do eventually. But she just the most fun that she had was just running up and down the halls. Like that's where she's at in terms of like comprehension level. They had like yoga for the kids, and like the kids are trying to do yoga, it's funny. And then Brielle's just there kind of just like looking up and staring and, like wondering like what's going on, doing her own like weird stretches. But it's also an interesting place because I didn't know how to pack. It's like you got the water park, which is 84 degrees in the water park. So you got to make sure you bring your sandals and your swimsuit and like a t-shirt man tank. But then it's like, you're also doing all this other stuff that's not at the water park and where it's not 84 degrees. And it's also like 35 degrees outside. So it's like you got to pack like cold weather clothes in case you go outside, warm weather clothes for the water park. I don't know. A lot of back and forth to the room and changing a lot. I felt like I was in the Oscars or the Grammys, like hosting. I got all these freaking costume changes. And we ended up going to snow tubing not at Great Wolf Lodge, but at this place called Camelback. And it was supposed to be like $40 a ticket. And I will say this, we did not pay $40 a ticket. I won't tell you what we did, but we got in. And I went up the mount. I couldn't wrap my head around snow tubing Just like, so wait, everyone just gets a snow tube and then just like, you just go down the mountain and then like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. Like, what, how do you steer? How do you control what, like, are people just bouncing off each other? That seems, and then, you know, there was at one point where like, well, you know, we'll take Bree all down the mountain. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, my luck, you know, we'll hit a bump somewhere and it'll just like a flip and then I'll land on her, crush her. And then it's like, we're without child. Well, because we had to go tubing at night. But no, they have tracks. So as soon as I saw that, I felt a little bit more comfortable that they're like these little, they're like grooves in the mountain and that you pretty much just stay within that track. But still, I just didn't feel comfortable taking Brielle down there. I mean, she's, you know, just too small. So, of course, you know, I'm watching everyone go and I'm like, oh, this looks like fun. You can go feet first or you can go head first. And I was like, oh, I'm a man. I'm going to go head first. I saw a dude right before me go head first and he went down pretty fast and he stayed straight. And I was like, all right, I got this. Because, you know, me, I tend to overthink things I have never done before. First time things where I have zero practice and I haven't like looked into it at all. The mind goes into overdrive. Like, what do I do? And I have a million questions. And I saw that guy go and I was like, all right, this is pretty straightforward. I mean, how could I fuck this up? How could I possibly fuck this up? And the guy says, ready, set, go. I dive on head first and I immediately turn backwards. Like my feet are now going forwards and I'm looking back up towards the top of the mountain as I'm like flying down. And I'm thinking, oh, well, this is not good. Like, but maybe I'll just do a like 360, you know, that's kind of how it goes. I'll just do a 360 and nope. And then all of a sudden started going back and forth in the groove in the tunnel or whatever. And I thought, oh, I'm going to actually hop this like wall of ice into another lane, get smoked by someone coming down hard. You know, I got Final Destination brain at all times. And I thought, okay, like even when you're standing at the top of a mountain and you're just standing there, like the anxiety started to creep in because I was like, wow, we're really high. This is like ice. I've already slipped on ice like once this year. I can totally see that happening again where I just like, I try to just shift my weight and then whoop, then I go. And it's like, what if I slip on the ice and I go all the way down and like crush a family of 4 down that's like trying to get out of the way, you know? And then even when I got down, I was like, okay, I got to get the hell out of here because someone else is going to fall and slip and come down and like take me out at the knees. But it's still fun. It's just, and of course, like as I go down and I get my tube and I go walk to where you're supposed to hand it off to the next person in line. And I get down the little slope and I hand the rope connected to the tube to the next dude in line, and he grabs it. And as soon as he grabs it, he goes, "Go Birds." And I'm just like, because I was wearing my New York Giants hooded sweatshirt. And, and that's Go Birds. And, it's very simple, 2 words, but it's the most effective 2 words possibly in sports history, not just football history, not just NFC East history, not just in the division rivalry, just Go Birds. It's so quick, simple, and effective. And it stuck in my crawl, because we don't have, like, Giants fans don't have like a cool retort for that. I know this. I don't have good retorts. I don't have good comebacks, quips. I will think of something like a week after and be like, oh shit, damn, I had it. Just 1 week late. But in the moment, no. Real time, no. No, I just don't have it. So I just went, ho, 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 and walked off like a fucking loser. But yeah. And that's, as much as I hate the Eagles, the fucking Eagles, man, I got to give the fans credit. Like, Go Birds. I mean, the Eagles could fucking stink out loud, and they have occasionally. Even when we had their number, they could just yell "Go Birds," and it's just like I have no response to that. You know, oh, you're gonna say, and like, of course, Giants fans are like, oh, well, just 4 Super Bowls or 2 Super Bowl MVPs, or we'll just keep bringing up the Super Bowls and championships, and I'm like, I don't know that really does anything to Eagles fans, but them saying "Go Birds," it like cuts me to my core. I don't know why, because we don't have something like that. We have "Let's Go Giants," bum 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 bum, but I unless I'm missing something, we don't have a simple "Go Birds." He got me. I got, and that's what's super frustrating about this time is like, yeah, the Eagles have our number right now, but it's like we go and win the Super Bowl next year. All that losing, it doesn't amount to anything. Doesn't mean nothing. I don't know. So we only went down once. And I was like, and after I got done going down once, I went to my wife and I said, nah, Brielle's not doing that. Like, even the conveyor belt, just going up the mountain on the conveyor belt, I was like, you have to hold on to the rope on your tube, and then they have the railings on each side. But like, I'm like, I don't want to be holding on the railing like a wuss. So I'm going to try and just like use whatever core I have left. I have 0 core, so that's tough. And try and balance myself. But it's like, it's not a very smooth conveyor belt. It's a little herky jerky. And so you could definitely lose your balance. And then it's like, why are you bringing a baby on a conveyor belt to do snow tube? It's like, just forget about it. And what did she have fun doing? So at the Great Wolf Lodge, she loves running up and down the hallways. That was like her number one activity. And then at snow tubing, her number one activity was jumping up and down on a grate in front of the gift shop. Let's not overthink these things. Let's not spend thousands or hundreds of dollars to go somewhere where she's not going to remember shit. And we could literally do anything in the yard and it would be just as fun for her. I still had fun though. Can't talk that much shit. So Friday night, when we got back from snow tubing, it was me, the wife's best friend, her sister. I was like, you guys go have fun. Whatever you want to do, go have fun. I'll put the baby to bed and I'll watch her. But really, I'm just going to watch movies and TV in the dark. And, my wife is amazing. She got me like 2 double vodka sodas, to help relax and calm down. I went to get a simple dinner and ended up getting like an entire pizza and a dozen wings because I'm a fat ass. And because I didn't understand the walking taco. I didn't get that at all. Like, there's the Hungry as a Wolf down on the floor 1 by the water park, and they just have like, it says walking taco, and then there's like one row or column is Tostitos and another column is Doritos. And then there's just a chalkboard that says toppings and has all these cool toppings. And I'm just sitting there going, I can't put 2 and 2 together. I don't think of myself as a smart man, but I'm not this dumb, am I? What the fuck is a walking taco? So I didn't get it because I was scared to ask. That could be the most pathetic thing of all. Is like, hey, you're at a restaurant. These are employees. They probably know what a walking taco is. Just ask them. Nope, couldn't do it. So I got a pizza and wings. But as I'm waiting to get the pizza and the wings, there's a kid, I guess his mom or grandma, an adopted child for sure. And then I guess the father and the kid, just like, I don't know how he fell. He was trying to get out of the seat. And the table is like bolted to the ground. I guess it's not movable. And so he like squeezed through the space between the booth and the table and just eats it hard, like smack hard on the floor. And I'm standing right there above him. And I was like, he just fell. It's not like he got shot. And so I'm trying to figure out what to do. Like, and then the grandma or the mom is like trying to squeeze through the same space to get to him, but can't because it's a very small space and the table's not movable yet again, bolted down. So she's like struggling to get to him. And I'm sitting there like, like stop, start, herky jerky. Like, am I on the conveyor belt again? Like, what do I do here? Like, I think he looks okay. He's just startled and scared, and it's probably not anything bad. But if he did break his arm, and I'm just sitting there like looking at him, and I remember the kid looking up and crying his face off and looking at me, and I'm just like, it was a Larry David moment. It was a Curb Your Enthusiasm moment for sure, times a million. I mean, and if it was Curb, like everyone would be like, Neal, why didn't you do anything? You just sat there and staring at him, blah, blah, blah. Like, what's your problem? Why are you such an asshole? And so it's like, he seemed okay. It's like there was no blood. I didn't see a bone. And of course the parents came around the other way and like picked him up and were like, he's okay. He falls all the time, blah, blah. And I was just like, well, I feel like shit. I don't know. It's like, am I that disconnected from humanity and from mankind that I can't just help a child who fell? Apparently not. Apparently I am that far gone. So that was a disappointing move on my part. And then, so I watched, what did I watch? I think I watched Blended on like TBS while housing double vodka sodas as my child drifted off into slumber. So there's a lot of costume changes at Great Wolf Lodge, because it's like, we're going to do this now. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And so each time, unless you can like bring a big bag with all your stuff to the locker room, but then you're like constantly in the locker room, which is gross. And we're on the 4th floor, which is nice because you're away from all the noise, but you're also very far from everything, especially where our room was on the 4th floor. So it's like every time you want to do this costume change to go do something else, that's like half an hour to an hour. So to like wait for the elevator, go up to the top floor, stopping on every floor, walk all the way to your room, change, blah, 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 figure out what you're going to do, come back out the room, go back down, wait for the elevator, go back down the elevator, I think next time, I hope there's a next time that my planning brain has to completely take over. Like, we have to have an agenda. You cannot wing the Great Wolf Lodge. You really need to have like the most fun and like take full advantage of it. You really do have to plan everything out and have an agenda. There was like story time where all the kids get in their pajamas, and Bree, of course, is like seeing this sea of well-behaved children sitting and listening to the story as the storytellers on the stage with the mascot Wiley the wolf or whatever. And she's like, looks at the kids and is just like, y'all are suckers, and just immediately tried to climb up on stage to like tackle Wiley the wolf. Like we had a holdback guy. My wife is the holdback guy, so she was able to restrain her. But she's less than 2. She didn't know what the hell. She didn't know what the hell's going on. I remember when we were having lunch, a late lunch on Saturday, and at the Loose Moose Family Kitchen, we were trying to get a table, and Bree's like losing her shit because she's starving. And so she sees like a stuffed animal and is like, needs to have it now. And so my wife buys it. And as soon as she buys it, Bree like throws it on the ground and goes to another stuffed animal and like needs that stuffed animal. It's like, okay, well, there's $35 we'll never see again. But we have lunch, and, this is a point. I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but the waitress, bless her soul, very nice individual. And I feel for the people who work at this place. Like when we're at the water park, and I had Bree at the water park, We're just trying to make sense of it all. Like there's a lot of seats, a lot of chairs, but it's like you want to make sure you pick the right seats and chairs. And of course we picked the worst seats and chairs, like in the corner of this like stairway to where the private cabanas are. So we're kind of a very weird place to put chairs and seats in such a like high foot traffic area where there's like really no, like your only scenery, the only view you have is of people walking up and down stairs. It's like not great. But like, you know, it was the only really seats and chairs we could find together. So we set up shop there. And so Bree's like climbing on the stairs and this waitress is trying to come around the corner with a tray full of frozen drinks for the haves, the 1%ers in the private cabanas at Great Wolf Lodge. And Bree, like these stairs are pretty wide. Like they're not narrow stairs. It's not like you can fit like 5-6 offensive linemen across, and Bree is like towards the hugging like the rail, you know, going up the stairs on the and the waitress is trying to come around that way. There's no one else on the stairs, and the waitress just stands there. And I didn't even look at her, but I can feel her presence. And I wait like a beat because I thought, oh, the waitress is going to like go around our baby and not like, you know, step over her or step through her, but like just go around like, you know, it's a baby. She doesn't know any better. Nope. This waitress, I could feel her just waiting there with the tray. And so like, I didn't want to look at her, and I gave it like a second or two. And then I picked up Bree and like moved her out of the way, and she stomped up the stairs. The waitress stomped up the stairs, and I looked to my wife and the whole crew, my wife, the friend and sister-in-law, just like, she just gave you quite possibly the worst death stare we've ever seen with these eyes. And I was like, wow, that was the most hostile, volatile encounter or interaction with zero words or sounds. Zero. Not, I'm sorry. Hey, excuse me. Can you get out of the way? None of that. It was just, I felt her standing there. I thought, okay, I should probably move the baby because she's like not budging and doesn't feel like can't go around for some reason. And then I picked her up and I didn't say sorry, excuse me, because it's like, you know, in my head, I'm like, oh, you're a bitch. But at the same time, this is a waitress at Great Wolf Lodge in the water park. So I can feel for her. That probably sucks. She probably doesn't get great tips. She probably has to deal with this all the time. This is probably the millionth time that she's been on these stairs when there's a baby in her way. And she's like, you know what, this time I'm not going around. I'm waiting until the parent picks up the baby. And I was that parent. So I say that to say this. The waitress at the Loose Moose. I can't imagine. You know, I was a waiter for a hot minute in a couple restaurants, and I was the worst. But I can't imagine being in a place where it's a family restaurant and it's just kids all the time and having to deal with that. That being said, you know, one of us, not me, our friend ordered a Kettle One and soda. You know, she's like, okay, which says, okay. Goes to get the drinks. The friend has now gone to the bathroom. So it's just me, the wife, and the sister-in-law. She comes with the drinks. She hands me what looks to be the vodka soda and says, we're out of Kettle One. Is Absolute okay? And I said, it's not my drink. I don't know. And she's like, oh, you didn't order this? And I was like, no. I ordered a beer, if that helps. And the same beer that my wife ordered. So keep it easy. She's like, oh. So she puts the vodka soda down, Absolute and soda, and leaves. And so the friend comes back, picks it up, and we're like, she said that they're out of Kettle One and that's Absolute. And she goes, oh. And she takes a sip and says, no. Like, that's not even close. Like, if you're out of Kettle One, you don't go to Absolute. Like, that's not a 1-to-1. And so she got up and went to the bar and like got either a Tito's and soda or a Grey Goose and soda. I guess it was probably Grey Goose and soda would be the 1-to-1. Though I think Kettle's a little bit better. And Then at some point, our friend says, I don't think the waitress or the bartender admitted that they don't know what Kettle One is. It just, I'm in disbelief on that one. I don't think that's possible to not know what Kettle One is. And this is a waitress who is not right out of college. I'll say that. She was I cannot stress how nice she was. Very nice. She said, have a great wolf day. And it really picked us up like, oh, I'm a wolf now. I'm in the Great Wolf Lodge. Now I'm a wolf. I'm going to do wolf things. So, we left her a really nice tip, and she was, very nice, but it was just like, really? You don't know Kettle One? It's tough. It's a tough look. So eventually, though, on Sunday, we had to check out by 11. Cassie my wife took the baby back down the water park, and she had a better time, didn't freeze to death, which is great. So it makes me think that maybe I have some kind of weird power where if I touch our child, then I make her cold. Almost like, what's that dude from X-Men? Ice. Nope. No, I can't. Iceman? Nope. So we were trying to get breakfast. It was late. I would say it was like 11:30, and we go to the Loose Moose again because we're like, oh, I guess this has a breakfast buffet. And then we look, and it's a breakfast buffet. Ended at 11. Of course it does. It ended at 11. And are you open now? No, we're not open now. We're open at 12:30. Great. So there's a span from 11 to 12:30 where it's like, and we hit it. We hit that window. Ended up going down to floor 1, which is kind of like the basement. And in the basement, they have like the bowling alley, mini golf, and the arcade. And so I hit up the arcade, which I'm almost 40, and I fucking love arcades. I don't know what it is. I mean, the excessive lights and sounds are like nails on a chalkboard. Like it's like a knife digging into my like a screwdriver digging into my eyeball. But I just love games. I love playing them games. So I went hog wild thanks to the wife who offered to watch our kid, and lost my eyeglasses, of course. But I finally got the walking taco. And essentially what it is, they have a bag of Tostitos or Doritos. You tear open the top. You then can choose your toppings, and they put the toppings directly in the bag on top of all the Tostita chips or tortilla chips. And then you just kind of, with a fork, you just kind of have at it. That's a walking taco. I had that for breakfast, which was nice. And we ended up getting some like 20,000 tickets, all 4 of us combined. So we had a pretty nice haul. Someone won a mountain bike. And I was like, I don't know. I know everyone's like pumped about the mountain bike, but I don't know how to get that home. Like we don't have like a rack or anything on this car. So, but I think we got like a dart game, a massive pillow, which is nice because this couch sucks. So all in all, good effort, good job. All around, I highly recommend it. I just don't know if I want to go back there again with such a young kid. It's like if we do have another one, it'd be nice to just space it out. Be like, okay, when Bree is like 9 and the other youngin boy, hopefully, is like 5 or 6, and then just go back every year from that point on. Great. But I just don't see a reason to keep going back when the kid doesn't remember. But I don't have much veto power when it comes to that. All right, so let's talk Oscars. The Oscars, the lowest rated Oscars of all time, which that doesn't sound right. All time. I think there was like 23.6 million viewers or something like that. We, of course, because we, Cass had to put the baby down to sleep. So we, basically put off starting the show for a while. I'd say like more than an hour, so we could skip all the commercials. So I have no opinion about the commercials. I mean, I was pulling for Parasite big time. And I was like, it's so great that they're nominated. I would love to see them win, but just knowing history and knowing how this pans out, like they're an underdog at this point, even though it's such a beloved movie and rightfully so. I was just like, there's no way it's going up against like, Scorsese and Tarantino and, 1917, which is getting a lot of buzz. And it's just like so many big, heavy hitters that I was like, I don't know that it's really gonna to do well. And it did way better than I expected. And I'm really happy for everyone involved with that movie, because it's the first foreign language, non-English language feature film to win Best Picture. That was kind of surprising. Because, once they won, and even, I mean, they say a lot of times when these people win, they get up there and say, oh, I didn't even write a speech because I didn't expect to win and blah, blah, blah. And that feels contrived at this point, because it's like, yeah, but come on, this is like maybe your one moment to win an Oscar. You didn't write a fucking speech, dude. But in this case, it was like, all right, he won Best Director, which was well-deserved. And then it's like they won Best International Feature Film, which used to be Best Foreign Language Film. And you're like, okay, that's that. They kind of gave Parasite their due, and then they obviously won't win Best Picture, because it's like, when has that ever happened? And then they won, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And totally deserved. I mean, I've seen, of the Best Picture nominees, I have not seen 1917. But I have seen the rest. Was it Joker, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Irishman, Parasite? I haven't seen Marriage Story. I haven't seen a few, I guess. So, but of the ones I've seen, Parasite was my favorite by far. I think it's funny, and my point being, you knew that this guy didn't expect to win. It wasn't just some shtick, because he kept saying he thought that like, oh, I'm gonna drink until next morning was gonna be like his one send off, and everyone would remember that one speech, because it was like, I'm gonna drink the next morning, and then he like won again, and he was like, I'm gonna drink till next morning, and then he won again, and it was like, yeah, I'm still gonna drink the next morning. I loved his speech. Bong Joon-Ho Bong. Definitely, I don't know. That's right. But him, I mean, when he said that, like, something personal is most creative, something, he was like, said a quote, and then he was like, and that's from Martin Scorsese. And then they cut to Martin Scorsese, and he's just like, cool? Like, what? I said that? And everyone goes nuts. And then he talks about, Quentin Tarantino, and, how inspired he was by Tarantino, and how Tarantino kind of, I guess, endorsed him in some way. And then QT did his little, like, pound the chest peace finger thing. That was just like, okay. And then he was like, tried to like kind of give his due to Todd Phillips and Sam Mendes, but you could tell it was like, okay, you're a big Tarantino Scorsese guy. We get it. So as soon as Brad Pitt opened his speech with a political joke, I was like, all right, I'm out. I can't keep like, and I guess it turned out to be a really great speech, but I was just like, I'm just fucking out, dude. I'm like, historically I've been turned off by politics, but also like I just have not kept up with it. I can't keep up with it. I'm not keeping up with it. So anytime someone's like throwing political jokes out there about like, oh, blah, blah, Schiff and whoever. I'm just like, I can't fast forward. So the Joaquin Phoenix speech. So Joaquin Phoenix wins for Best Actor, which is totally, makes sense. I can't see anyone else winning it, considering everything that he went through. It's like he checked all the boxes for Best Actor, like dramatic body transformation that probably was like hell to go through. Check. And then, being so enwrapped in your character and like, being so far gone into your character that, people are scared on set. It's like, check. So he won. And, even when they showed him and they're announcing the nominees and they showed him, I was like, oh boy, he's got something cooking and it ain't pretty. He's very nervous. He's either upset or mad or nervous, or he's just a bundle of nerves. Something is going to happen here. Which is interesting considering how Joker, the movie, panned out. There were kind of similar parallels there of him, as a guest about to take the stage and whatnot. So I thought that was an interesting parallel. And, for the most part, I agreed with most of what he was, the core message of what he was trying to say. He did lose me at points. I mean, he had it reminded me of me. Like, you have all the right ingredients or elements of what you're going to say, and then your brain, it's all right up here, and then it comes out your mouth and you're like, nah, that's not, that should be there and that should be there, and you should flip that and then put that behind there. And I feel like that's what kind of happened with him, is that he had so much that he wanted to say in such a short period of time that it kind of got jumbled and muddled a little bit. It was still a good speech, I thought. I could do without him being like, stop, shut up, because it's like, and he admitted in the speech too, like, I've been cruel, I've been ungrateful, and blah blah blah. And I was like, you still are kind of being that way when you're telling people to shut up and stop and blah blah. It's like, these people are here to celebrate you. It's okay to be celebrated. And I know that, I've struggled with that. I think a lot of people struggle with that. Is like, you get a compliment and you can't just take it. And I think that's what was happening with him. It was as simple as that. He feels like he's maybe not deserving of it, which is, understandable. But don't lash out at the people for trying to celebrate you. The whole cow analogy thing, not an analogy, but, interesting that he was speaking without specifics, in broad strokes, but like, in overarching themes, which I appreciated, because it's like, you start to single out certain things, then people get offended or whatever. And so the message, the takeaway is like love and compassion. And that should be the impetus behind, the fact that, don't lose faith in humanity. And we're an inventive, creative species. We're smart, and we can think of ways to do things that don't hurt each other, don't hurt the environment. And I was just like, it all makes sense, my man. I'm right there with you. It's just, I don't think it's going to be the Thanos snap that's going to do it. I think it's going to be a slow burn. Yeah, it's going to be a slow ride to get to that point. Although I think we're moving faster than most people think. I don't know. But the whole cow thing just kind of threw me off. Like, interesting that he would use that as the example when there's so many other examples that he could have used. Like a cow, and we take the cow's milk that's intended for the calf and we consume it, and her cries are unmistakable. And it's just like, huh? Okay, interesting. Don't drink cow milk anymore. I mean, it's a very easy shift for me. I mean, I I did soy milk and almond milk, and then I hear like soy milk gives you man boobs and almond milk gives you estrogen. I don't know, dude. Just give me something to put on my cereal. I don't care what it is. So that kind of derailed it a little bit, but overall, I still I appreciated what he had to say. It was I mean, I understand it was still political, and it was still like, dude, you're an actor playing a character. But if you watched Joker, a lot of what he was saying was pulled from the themes of the movie. Arthur Fleck is a guy who was not loved and not respected, and people did not have compassion for him, and he lost his shit. And, would he have done the things that he did if there was love and compassion, honesty and transparency and all these things that we all kind of strive for. So that's why I wasn't as like put off by the speech as if like, if he played another character and these themes were not, tied to a speech, I'd be like, what the fuck is this? But like, if you watch the movie, it kind of tied in with what he was saying. So I didn't mind it at all. And then Renee Zellweger, I was just like, interesting that she won, because I didn't even like hear about the movie Judy until award season came around, and she was nominated in, Golden Globes and SAGs, I guess. And then it was just like a foregone conclusion. I guess she's going to win the Oscar because she's won all these other awards. But I don't know. Her speech was kind of, it was measured. I think she wanted to make sure she said the right thing. I guess you could say some would maybe think that it was a little inauthentic because it felt a little convoluted, that she wanted to make sure she was hitting all the right beats for what people consider to be, the things that you should say now. But ScarJo, I thought she was, Jesus, best supporting actress in Jojo Rabbit, best actress for Marriage Story, and you come out 0 for 2. I don't know. I think she deserved at least one. I haven't seen either, but I just saw from the clips that they showed that she was giving it all. Yeah, still a lot of comments about like Oscars so white, only one black actor nominated, no women directors, representation. I get it. Representation. But it's interesting that the Academy would let, a lot of these people just speak their mind and also take shots at the Oscars while presenting at the Oscars. So I think that kind of self-aware approach it works for the show, but also I don't know. I guess it's something to aim for. It's like, what happens when we're all equally represented in an award show? What the fuck are people going to talk about? I don't know. Just kind of, it gets grating after a while. It's just like, all right, we fucking get it. I don't know. Coming from a straight white guy, the last person that should be talking about it. I understand. All right. So with that, let's talk about Parasite. What a fucking flick. So good. I will say I did watch, I think I mentioned this last episode maybe, but I did go on a bit of a tear while my wife was at a bachelorette party. I just was watching movies and whatever left and right. I caught up on, I finally saw Spider-Man Homecoming, which Tom Holland, pretty good as Peter Parker. I think that's a wise decision. I also watched Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which I would argue is better than Spider-Man Homecoming. And Far From Home, I didn't get to see Far From Home, but I went on a bit of a Spider-Man kick. And Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, pretty damn cool. Raging Bull, I think I did mention this last show. I don't know. I just, and Fast Color. I think I did mention all that last episode. So let's talk about Parasite. Let's talk about the best picture, best international feature film, best director. I knew, and I've been burned by Rotten Tomatoes in the past, but I knew that once I saw 99% from critics, 99% of critics gave this a favorable review, and 93% of the audience gave this a favorable review. I was like, I don't know how. I mean, if I don't like this fucking movie, I think I need to like go on a sabbatical, live in a cave for like a year or two, just really get away from it all and reevaluate my life and take a long look in the mirror. But yeah, I loved it. Within like the first 5 minutes, I was like, this is awesome. That guy's awesome. This is a great movie. You know, because you get you hear the buzz around certain movies that didn't have wide releases. And you start to think, is this just like people buying into the hype by critics, and it's just like really an indie niche type of thing where I don't know. And it is a foreign language movie, and foreign language movies are tough because it's either dubbed over and you're kind of thrown off by the dub, or like you have to read the captions. But like I've been reading captions on English language films for years now, so it's almost like not that's not a problem for me anymore. So there's also the concern that like something is so foreign that you just can't, you're just like trying to play catch up in your head, and like there's the cultural difference are just too much for you to really enjoy. That was not the case with Parasite. So it's a family. They're all unemployed. So it's the mom, the dad, and like a college-aged son and like a college-aged daughter, maybe high school-aged daughter. They're all unemployed, and they all live in a rundown section of the neighborhood in like a basement apartment together. And eventually, one by one, they end up getting jobs. Like the son is the first one to get a job. His friend is like going to study abroad, and he's a mentor or tutor for this high school aged girl who is the daughter of in a rich family, very rich family. And so he gets this kind of layup job where it's like you just have to pretend like you're in college and you know English, so just have at it. And so he gets the job, and then one by one, they all get jobs with the rich family. And it kind of starts off as like a comedy, and you're like, this is pretty funny. And then like about halfway through it, then shit gets real, and you're like, oh, okay. I love that it just did like a crossover, you know, in the middle of the film, and just kind of switched genres a little bit. Still had comedy throughout, but like it was it got the blood pumping a little bit. So obviously written and directed by Bong Joon-Ho. I wonder how that sounds to people who actually know how this should be pronounced. Like, is it like if someone is saying my name, they would say Neal Lynch? But he wrote and directed Okja on Netflix, which I haven't watched because it reminded me of like Real Big Fish. Kind of that weird kind of, I don't know, just like, what am I watching? He also wrote Snowpiercer, a very underrated movie with Chris Evans. That is kind of a little dark and sad, but had its moments. And then The Host, which I've seen Snowpiercer, I haven't seen Okja, and then The Host has been in my queue for so long, and it's like I'm going to watch it this weekend. That is for sure. The critics' consensus: this is an urgent, brilliantly layered look at timely social themes. Parasite finds writer-director Bong Joon-Ho in near total command of his craft. Yeah, I mean, layers, seven layer bean dip right there. Did 35.5 million domestically, 120, almost 130 million internationally, for a worldwide gross of 165 mil, which is, I believe, is more than the next two movies I'm going to review, Gemini Man and Zombieland Double Tap. And so that's pretty amazing in and of itself. But the fact that this is never a wide release, the widest release this had was a little over 1,000 theaters, and that just happened this past 3 weekends. And it never cracked the top 10, but it was just consistently a good per screen average. It won the Palme d'Or at the 2019 Cannes Film Festival, rightfully so. For the director, he said that Parasite is a tragic comedy that depicts the humor, horror, and sadness that arise when you want to live a prosperous life together, but then you run up against the reality of just how difficult that can be. For people of different circumstances, to live together in the same space is not easy. It is increasingly the case in this sad world that humane relationships based on coexistence or symbiosis cannot hold, and one group is pushed into a parasitic relationship with another. In the midst of such a world, who can point their finger at a struggling family locked in a fight for survival and call them parasites? It's not that they were parasites from the start. They are our neighbors, friends, and colleagues who have merely been pushed to the edge of a precipice. As a depiction of ordinary people who fall into an unavoidable commotion, this film is a comedy without clowns, a tragedy without villains, all leading to a violent tangle and a headlong plunge down the stairs. You are all invited to this unstoppably fierce tragicomedy. Damn. And so true. In an interview with Vulture, he said the very ending of the movie, he explained the ending of the movie and debunked the notion that Ki Woo actually might ever be able to become rich enough to buy that. Okay, so spoiler alert. To become rich enough to buy the house and allow his father to emerge from his underground bunker. Maybe if the movie ended where they hug and fade out, the audience can imagine, oh, it's possible to buy that house, but the camera goes down to that half basement. It's quite cruel and sad, but I thought it was being real and honest with the audience, you know. We all know that this kid isn't going to be able to buy that house. I just felt that frankness was right for the film. And yeah, I mean, you see the guy give his speeches at the Oscar, and he has that kind of humor to him where he's frank and direct, and it's refreshing. It just seems like a real dude. And, you know, I did audibly kind of gasp and sit up when I saw that, like, you know, spoiler alert. I mean, you know, the non-spoiler review is, I don't know. I mean, it's fucking fantastic. You know, I was going to tweet about it. That's how you know it was good. I was going to tweet it. And, I mean, funny. Every single performance is awesome, with the exception of maybe the rich dad. I got a very weird, like, I couldn't tell what was going on with his voice. It didn't seem like his voice. It seemed like they got like a voice actor to dub over what he was saying. So with the exception of him, like, everyone else knocked it out of the park. I immediately gravitated towards the dad because I thought he was just funny the way he talked and acted. And even like the housekeeper that ends up losing her job, like when she's on the intercom, like, that was great stuff. And then you know, the ending. Whew. Oh my God, the ending. So you gotta watch it. I don't know how to sell this any harder. But spoilers, yeah. I sat up and took notice when it looked like the kid actually found a way to get rich, ended up buying the house where his dad's hiding out in the bunker, and they were reunited. And I was like, damn. And then, of course, we pull back to see, like, oh, it's just like what he would like to do. It's not actually happening. It is fucking creepy and scary, though, to think that, like, in a house like that has secret passages and whatnot, that there are just people just hanging out and squatting, you know. my brain goes to that whenever I go into our basement. In our basement, we don't live in like a mansion or anything like that. We have a garage that's like detached. And even then it's like, if I go up the stairs to like what is essentially the attic of the garage to like throw some stuff there for storage, I fully expect to find like 3 people living up there. Ever since I saw, that stupid movie with, what's his face? Walter White. Bryan Cranston. It was called like, what? It was a beginning with a W, but essentially he like fakes his own death and then ends up living in his own, either in his own attic or like a neighbor's attic for like a very long time. I want to say like years. And he's just able to like somehow go out at night when everyone's asleep and dumpster dive for food and whatnot. And then just like is able to kind of shit wherever and just kind of goes about life living as like a squatter, homeless squatter in this attic while watching his family and while watching his wife like meet another guy and then fall in love with another guy. And then he decides, oh shit, that's fucked up. Like, I don't want that to happen. I need to restake my claim. So then he gets cleaned up again. And then the end of the movie is just, and I'm spoiling it because you shouldn't watch it. I watched it for you, so you don't have to. The end of the movie is like, he just fucking, he's all cleaned up and he just walks. It's Christmas and you see him slowly walking past the front window where you see the kids and the wife and the new guy in the house. And you see him slowly walk by and then you see him slowly enter the frame and everyone's like, and then boop, cut to black. And you're like, fuck you. The whole point of this, the whole reason I'm watching is to see what kind of reaction happens when they find out he's alive and the fallout or whatever happens from that. It's like the only movie that I felt the need to negatively comment on in Rotten Tomatoes. That's an example of how not to do it. Whereas Parasite was like, okay, I can totally see this happening. The housekeeper is from a previous homeowner who designed it a certain way. And I'm still a little hazy on why the husband was like, I guess the husband snuck into the basement to live there or got stuck down there or something like that. But even the little things in this movie were so good. Like the fact that you have, so the housekeeper, like, they find a way to get her out of the house and fired. And so the mother comes in and is the housekeeper. And the whole reason that they're kind of able to kind of get away with this is that it's all word of mouth referrals. And they all say they're not related to each other. They just know this person. So it's like, hey, I know this guy who drives limos, and it's the dad. It's like, oh, I actually know this housekeeper and it's the mom. But they pretend like they don't know each other. And that's how they're able to pull it off. But I totally forgot what I was going to say. Oh boy. So stupid. Anyway, that's Parasite. Check it out. Oh, I mean, there's certain things that happen. So there's little, like I said, there were little things that happen where that's what makes it such a great movie that everyone loves. When the mother and the father, so the mother is the housekeeper, the father is the car driver. When they are in the same room together, and the little boy, who is a bit, I don't know if you say off, just a little, wild, rambunctious, and hard to control. And you find out that the kid saw a ghost when he was like younger, and so that had a profound effect on him. But when the mother and the father from the poor family are in the same a room in the rich family's house. The little boy from the rich family smells the father and the mother and is like, they smell the same. And like no one, like the rich family didn't think of anything of it, but like, you know, that the poor family was like, oh fuck, like we're gonna get caught because this little kid's smart as shit. I thought that was such just a small sample of why the movie is so good. Just little things like that. Yeah. So, and then I mean, that was like when they said, oh, the boy, like he saw a ghost when he was like, you know, on his 6th birthday or something like that. And you're like, oh, okay. And the way that they were able to tie it into the fucking old housekeeper's husband creeping up the stairs, and like that, like one quick shot of him like poking his head up with like those eyes. Oh man, I got chills right now just talking about it. Hard to the end. I mean, the ending, spoilers, but the ending, we got to talk about it, I guess. I understand that the dad, who's the driver, is kind of pushed the edge and he's sick of like, you know, the rich dad, rich dad, poor dad, the rich dad, like basically treating him like he's family or a friend and saying he's a friend or a family, but then telling him to do shit and saying it's his job. Like, okay, I can see how that can get under your skin, but for you to like stab the dude in the heart, that's a bit much. When, you know, I understand like, okay, the kid was traumatized or hurt or something and like needed to go to the hospital. And so the rich dad is like, get the car. And of course the rich dad doesn't know that, you know, the daughter was just murdered, that his driver's daughter is the friggin' art therapist. Like the rich dad doesn't know that, which is another thing in itself. It's like, if you were to do that, this is going to come off fucking so racist, but I don't know how else to say it. And I said this to my wife, but like, if you made this movie with an actual family, so it's me, my sister, my mom, my dad, and we tried to pull this off, wouldn't someone be like, you know, you look a lot like the art therapist? Or in another world, like, are you sure you're not related? Like, someone would have to call it out. I don't know. That's the only kind of little tiniest of plot holes, you know, nitpicky Neal coming out full force. But like, wouldn't someone say, hey, you guys look like you're related? Are you brother, sister? Like, that never once crossed anyone's mind. Well, it's a bit fishy. But oh man, the twists and the turns, so good. And like, you can't, you know, they did some bad shit, but like, you can't ultimately, you think about like, what if you were in their shoes? What would you do the same? It's kind of hard to say you wouldn't. So that's why he says it's like, what do you say? A tragedy without villains. You know, because everyone, it's a lot of it's survival instinct. It's like, well, I cannot have this happen. This is such a good thing for me. And so you take action swiftly. And of course, sometimes it results in like a fatality, which is, yeah, it's tough. Parasite's so good. Spent a little too much time on that one. Next up is Gemini Man. Man, you know what? I remember seeing the trailer for this and I was like, oh, this is kind of like a knockoff of Looper, but instead of like JGL being in prosthetics and makeup and doing a Bruce Willis impression, it's like, oh, we actually get young Will Smith against old Will Smith. This is fucking bouse. So Will Smith plays Henry Brogan, an elite assassin who's suddenly targeted and pursued by a mysterious young operative that seemingly can predict his every move. And it's Spoiler, it's young Will Smith. So it's directed by Ang Lee, who I think he did one of the Mission Impossibles. He also did the Hulk with what's his name? Australian guy. David Banner? Bruce Banner. I forget his name. But Jennifer Connelly was in it. So hot. Screenplay is by David Benioff, who's the best known as the Game of Thrones co-creator. And fun fact, he also wrote an episode of Always Sunny. I thought that was cool. And he also directed the Leslie Jones stand-up comedy special for Netflix, Leslie Jones Time Machine. I thought that was really funny. Like, what? The guy who did Game of Thrones. I mean, talk about eclectic. Game of Thrones, Always Sunny, Leslie Jones, Gemini Man. He also wrote the screenplay for X-Men Origins, Troy, and 25th Hour. It's also co-written by Billy Ray. This guy has a virtual who's who of screenplays on his resume. Richard Jewell, Terminator Dark Fate, Overlord, Captain Phillips, and The Hunger Games. Damn. And then it was also co-written by Darren Lemke, who did the story for Shazam. Stars Will Smith as Henry Brogan and Jr., Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Danny Zakarweski, Clive Owen as Clay Verris, Benedict Wong as Baron. Critics' consensus. Gemini Man's impressive visuals are supported by some strong performances, but this sci-fi thriller is fatally undermined by a frustratingly subpar story. I mean, come on. 26% of critics gave it a favorable review. 83% of the audience did. And I tend to side with the audience on this one. I mean, you know, you can't reinvent the wheel every time out the gate. You know, I don't know what more they could have done. They could have maybe explored why Clive Owen did what he did. And I mean, why he decided to pick Henry Brogan to be the clone source. I don't know. But it got pulled in around 48.5 mil domestically, 125 mil internationally, 173 worldwide. Opened at around 20.5 million, which was good for third at the box office, but it dropped out of the top 10 by November. This had a October 11th release date, and had a budget of 138 mil, so it like kind of barely broke even. I don't know. You know, I didn't have like tremendously high expectations going into it. I just wanted to see young Will Smith fight old Will Smith, and I got to see that, and I loved it because it took me back to, like, you know, the Fresh Prince days. So quick thoughts. The opening scene. So the opening scene, you got Will Smith, and he's a sharpshooter, he's a sniper. And there's a train, like a bullet train or something, that's barreling down the tracks. And there's a target, the guy that he's going to pop on the train. And he's about to like take the shot. And then there's a little kid that kind of like goes up to the booth or whatever where the quote unquote bad guy is sitting. And Will Smith is like, no, I can't do it. Can't do it. There's a girl. I gotta wait for the girl to clear before I can take the shot. And I think they did that to show that like he has a soul and he has a conscience, and that he does have a certain level of morality and ethics and blah blah. But then it's like the girl just goes back to her seat, which is like maybe 4 or 5 feet away, and then pops the guy. So it's like that little girl is still seeing someone get shot in the face and their brains going everywhere. Like, it's still going to be traumatizing to the kid. It's like, okay, the kid's not physically wounded or hurt by getting in the way of the bullet, but like still scarred for life. I just thought that was interesting. They were like, oh, phew. The girl like walked away like 2 feet to her seat where she can have a like front row seat to this guy's melon getting fucking popped. Ugh. When he reconnects with the old dude on the boat, his friend on the boat, and I mean, you just knew from that dude's look that he was cheating on his wife. I mean, that was like a no doubter. He's like you got the shirt open. He's like kind of like heavy set, fat, like, you know, out of shape, and just like a gorgeous yacht. And he's like saying, oh, the kids are at school and the wife is away. And it's just like, you're cheating. And sure enough, he was. I wrote this down. What's up with Clive Owen? That's a great question. What the hell is going on with Clive Owen? Remember when Clive Owen was supposed to be like the next James Bond? I loved him in Shoot 'Em Up. Say that. I loved him in Children of Men. And then that was like 2006, 2007. And then it was just like, I don't know. All of a sudden he got stuck in this like bad guy mode. And he's just, I don't know. He's not, just doesn't do it for me as a bad guy. Made some very valiant points though. Some good points. I'll say that. Like, you know, we know that he kind of what's the word here? Kind of he tugged at your strings a little bit, and you know, poked some sensitive areas, like saying he appealed to the logic in me, basically saying, hey, we sent all these soldiers off to war. They are indelibly, permanently marked and have indelible imprints on their psyche and their brain due to this warfare, the violence and all that goes on over there. And they come back different. They're different. They're changed forever and for the worse. And like these veterans have PTSD. And, you know, with my solution where we clone our best soldiers, but genetically engineer them to remove doubt and fear and conscience and guilt and all this other stuff, well, we don't have to worry about that. And it's like, it makes a solid point. So like Junior, the young Will Smith, who's like around 24, is not that soldier. So it's like basically almost an exact clone of the older Will Smith, but still has like the fear and the doubts and the guilt that, you know, Clive Owen was hoping to remove. Just interesting that he would take him under his wing and like act like he's his son, but then he has such a contentious relationship with the older Will Smith. It's like, what exactly happened there? Like he tried to kill the older Will Smith by drowning him as like a training exercise, but then brought him back to life, even though he died. And so that must have spurred him to be like, this guy is unlike anyone I've ever seen before. I must clone him. But then, you know, to have to look into the face of the guy that you have such a weird, non-loving relationship with, and then to call that your son, just odd. How about young Will Smith just like turning on his adopted dad in a heartbeat? I understand Clive Owen stinks and is like not the greatest father, even though you can see there's some moments here and there where he talks to him softly and he's like, you know, it's as if a father talking to a son. But can you imagine like living with a guy that you call dad for 24 years and then you find out like, oh, like like I'm a clone. I don't know that I would turn on him that quickly. I just don't know that I would just automatically like, you know, say, okay, I'm going to kill you now. So the plot hole that a lot of people have picked up on is that it's revealed in the third act that Henry, the older Will Smith, has a GPS tracker implanted in his arm that he never knew about. This being the case, there would have been no reason for Danny to go undercover at the dock and plant a GPS tracker on Henry's boat, Also, after Junior removes the GPS tracker from Henry's arm, they're still able to be tracked by Gemini. Yeah, that was kind of, I don't know. That's kind of weird. I think the whole, it was not, I mean, it was a bit sloppy, but it was, the whole point was like, oh, they keep finding out where we are. They know our next move before we have a chance. Like they're on us before we can even really settle into a new place. And so I think they did that to kind of plant in the audience's mind that Danny, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, could have been like the mole. So like old Will Smith like sniffs her out right away and is like, yeah, you're here to to cover me or to do surveillance on me. And he tests her at first and is like, are you trying to kill me or are you sent to kill me? And I guess she passes the test, but there's still that that feeling in the back of your head, like maybe she is like playing for the wrong team. So I think that's what they were going with. Some fun facts, some trivia. Tony Scott and Curtis Hanson were attached to the movie in the 90s when Disney was producing. But because computer effects were not advanced enough at the time, the studio canceled the project. From 2003 to 2010, Nicolas Cage was attached to the project. That would have been funny. It was finally due to go in production in 2008, but Cage convinced Jerry Bruckheimer to work on The Sorcerer's Apprentice instead. The original script was written for Clint Eastwood. That would have been wild. Johnny Depp turned it down in 2012. This is Jerry Bruckheimer's longest gestating movie. And then this one is just like, whoever like pointed this out and knew this and added this to IMDb trivia, like intense, dude. Intense. Danny. So Mary Elizabeth Winstead, while undercover as dock clerk, totaled up Henry's bill as $23.46, foreshadowing the plot. In human biology, a fetus inherits 23 chromosomes from each parent, making 46 total for a human being. There's no way that they actually like thought of that. I don't know. Maybe. So, I mean, honestly, so Parasite was like what, 5 out of 5 Natty Lights, or I had 5 out of 5. What? I had wine and vodka soda that night. That was the night I got food poisoning. So, 5 out of 5 Pedialights for 5 out of 5 Pedialights for Parasite, and then for Gemini Man, I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'll give it 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5 vodka sodas, Teats and Sods. It's like a throwback to like 90s action movies. This was probably supposed to be made in the 90s, but like they didn't have the technology to make it work, to make it look right. And it looks good. It looks really good. Better than what happened with The Irishman. The Irishman was just like, I cannot buy that Robert De Niro was 30. I've seen Bobby D when he was 30, and he does not look like that. So The Irishman is like, they did all right, but like this Gemini Man, they really nailed it. And yeah, I mean, it appeals to everyone. Like if you could run into a younger version of yourself, what would you tell them? It's almost like if you go back in time, what would you tell yourself? Like that's happening, but in real time. Like I know you better than you know yourself. And of course the younger version of you being like, fuck you, old man. I don't need your help. I can't imagine like me talking to 24-year-old me. Ugh, what a disaster. But yeah, I'd definitely give it a shot. Definitely watch it. It's a good, entertaining movie. Will Smith is awesome. I mean, I guess he's not necessarily the box office pull that he used to be, I guess. But I don't know. I don't let the box office fool you. I think this is, I don't know. It might have been just the release date. I don't know what. Maybe it just wasn't marketed right, but I liked it a lot. All right, so that's Gemini Man. Let's talk Zombieland Double Tap. What's interesting about this movie is that it was released as to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of the first movie. Double tap obviously is a reference to one of the rules that Jesse Eisenberg's character came up with, where it's like you want to make sure that you shoot a zombie once, you got to make sure they're dead and shoot them a second time. Confirm the kill. This is directed by Ruben Fleischer and written by Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, and Dave Callahan. The critics' consensus is that Zombieland Double Tap makes up for a lack of fresh brains with an enjoyable reunion that recaptures the spirit of the original and adds a few fun twists. Yeah, pretty much. Jesus. 68% of critics gave it a favorable review. 88% of the audience gave it a favorable review. And I'm right there with the audience. You know, I mean, it's hard to really find any fault with it. It is kind of crazy that it's like it is 10 years after the events of the first film, and you have Tallahassee, Columbus, Wichita, and Little Rock all still together. And then they set up shop in the White House, which has been abandoned. Kind of crazy that they're all still together. You know, considering the first movie, when it was so obvious that like there was a lot of trust issues there. But I mean, I don't know. 10 years is a long time, and it feels like to skip over those 10 years and not really talk about anything that happened in those 10 years is a little crazy to me. A little bit. They kind of touched on it a little bit, but not like they didn't go into any details. It was just like, after all these years, we've actually come to a neat little classification system of zombies. You have the Homer, like Homer Simpson, very dumb and whatever, almost harmless. And then you have like the Hawking, like Stephen Hawking, the genius that can trick humans and is smarter than they look. And then you have the ninja zombie, which literally never came into play during the movie, which was kind of bonkers. It was just like, we're going to mention the ninja zombie, but then one never, like, I don't remember it ever coming into play. The Homer came into play a couple times. It was funny. The Hawking, I don't know that the Hawking ever really came into play. And then the one that ultimately, you know, was the main threat in the movie was the T-800. That was like smarter, faster, stronger, whatever. Domestically, this pulled in 73 mil. Internationally, 49.6 mil, which seems low. And then for it, worldwide pulled in almost 123 million on a budget of 42. Domestically, it opened at 26.8 mil, which is number 3 overall, and it fell out of the top 10 by mid-November. So 10 years goes by. Columbus and Wichita obviously like kissed towards the end of the first movie, and I guess have been dating ever since, and they've kind of settled into domestic bliss. And so that's when I guess maybe to shake things up or to like stir things up, Columbus like proposes to Wichita, and she freaks out and leaves. And it's kind of like, it's been 10 years. There's like hardly anyone else out there. This is your guy. Like what? I mean, what else you got going? I don't know. The Madison, the new character, Madison, played by, I guess her name is Zoe Deutsch, I think. She was pretty funny. I liked her. When she comes up with the idea for Uber and they laugh in her face. Because I mean, you know, the apocalypse took place in 2009, so like Uber never came to be. But it is kind of interesting when the way she describes it and the way that they like take it is like, there's no way that would actually be successful. And of course, it's like, yeah, it took off big time. Fuck cabs. When they think she's turning into a zombie, I was like, I didn't buy it. I mean, they made it look as if I was towards the end of her, like, when he was about to shoot her. I was like, okay, maybe she is a zombie, because it was just like, that's such an extreme reaction that it's hard not to think that, but it turns out it's just a nut allergy. I knew that he didn't shoot her, because it's like they didn't show it on screen. Anytime you don't see something on screen, you just have to be like, nope, didn't happen. The Little Rock storyline kind of sucked. I do like how she like met up with a pacifist named Berkeley. Pretty funny. And that pissing off Tallahassee also pretty funny, as he's kind of like the stand-in dad for her. But other than that, her storyline kind of sucked. It was just like, I don't know if I'm really into this, but the introduction of Rosario Dawson, I thought that was good. She is Nevada, and then later like refines it to Reno. She owns the Elvis Hotel by Graceland, Graceland is completely abandoned and like pretty much like gone, which really is a bummer for Tallahassee. But like the scene that really like made it for me was the doppelgangers at Rosario Dawson's Elvis Hotel. You have Luke Wilson as Albuquerque and Thomas Hiddleston from Silicon Valley as Flagstaff, which Albuquerque and Flagstaff were supposed to be the original names for Tallahassee and Columbus. Woody Harrelson and Jesse Eisenberg, which they don't exactly, I don't know, Albuquerque and Flagstaff. I thought they would go with I know it's an homage to the first film and what could have been, but I was kind of hoping that they would be more in line with like more like subtle winks to who the actors are, like Thomas Hiddleston. He's been famous through Silicon Valley, so I thought they would call him Silicon Valley. And then with Luke Wilson, where's Bottle Rocket? Texas or Austin? Isn't he from Austin? So I thought they were going to call him Austin. Because he's from Austin, but then it turns out his real name is Austin, something to that effect. But, and I mean, that was in the trailer, them meeting their doppelganger. So it wasn't like a huge surprise. I knew it was coming, but it's still paid off. I still love that scene. I was kind of hoping that we would get the Emma Stone doppelganger. And then I was thinking, is the Emma Stone doppelganger supposed to be like Rosario Dawson? Is that her doppelganger? But I don't know. It seemed like a huge missed opportunity. Some fun facts. Ryan Reynolds was considered for the role of Albuquerque, but had to turn it down due to scheduling conflicts, which would have been funny because it's Ryan Reynolds, but at the same time, I mean, Luke Wilson nailed it. And like, to truly be Woody Harrelson's doppelganger, like Luke Wilson is about as close as you can get. I would say maybe Matthew McConaughey would be like the other fun doppelganger that they could have done, because they, were together in True Detective. But Ryan Reynolds, I don't see it. So good thing he had a scheduling conflict. And then the final fun fact I had for this: Tallahassee at one point signs a presidential pardon for Wesley Snipes. So Woody Harrelson signing a pardon for Wesley Snipes, who was his co-star in White Man Can't Jump, Money Train, and Wildcats, which I've seen White Man Can't Jump. I've not seen Money Train or Wildcats. So it's a nice little nod there. I think this is a kind of franchise, a series where I don't know that you can get fatigue from it. I think that there's such a huge, like, it's Zombieland, but it's like you can expand it. And I think that they can do so much more with it. With the, they have the core four, and there's just so much more to play with. And like you have a whole planet to play with and to see what other survivors are out there. I honestly was expecting more cameos. I mean, I know that we got Dawson and Luke Wilson, Hiddleston, but and you got Bill Murray in the post-credit scene. But I was still hoping for more cameos, knowing how successful and popular the first one was, and was so acclaimed and hailed like by so many people that I thought, given the star power of the core four, like Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg kind of took off. He had Social Network, and then Dawn of Justice League, and then of course Emma Stone. It's just like she blew up and took off. So I was thinking that they would pull in more of their actor friends into the movie, and you'd see more cameos either from like as zombies or as just like other survivors. So I think they could make a third one. I mean, it's obviously profitable, not a huge, spend, 42 mil. So hopefully don't wait another 10 years to make another one, because I just think it's just a recipe for success. All right, so that's movies. I'll quickly talk about some TV. My wife was super into Cheer, the show Cheer on Netflix about the junior college or community college of cheerleaders. And I tried watching, but like the coach is like super intense. She's like the Nick Saban of cheerleading coaches. And you can just see her tear young women, 18, 19, 20 years old, just tear them apart, just like limb by limb, verbally. So you see the young woman falling apart, like as she just tears into them, and it goes against everything that I've read and have been taught about like teaching and coaching. Be constructive, supportive, blah, blah. And this coach comes along and it's just like, you suck. That dance sucked. You got to get your head out of your ass because you suck and you'll never get this right. I have no faith in you. It's just like, oh, okay. Not how it's done, I don't think. At least not the new school. Definitely old school. So there's that where it's like, I don't know if I can watch this. She's just like, oof. So abrasive, and then they actually fall and like they break their back or their face or their leg, and it's just, I can't watch this. Like I can't watch them fall and like do serious damage to their bodies, all to like raise spirit. Like that's the point of this, to raise spirit and to get the crowd motivated. So I kind of like nodded off and tried to go to sleep, and I'm just about to like completely enter the deep sleep, that first stage, whatever it's called, slip past that. And then my wife loudly goes, and I thought someone was in the room. I thought there was some being, some entity threatening our well-being in our room when she gasped. But nope, it was just because someone fell. Someone fell off the pyramid of cheerleaders. I was like, what? She's like, oh no, nothing. It was like Trista fell. And I was just like, please turn it off. Tried watching a bunch of stand-up comedy specials that are on a lot of top 10 lists for the year and all time. And I don't know what kind of mood I was in or what was happening, but I just did not click with me. Wanda Sykes, Not Normal. The first 5 to 10 minutes was about Trump, and I was like, all right, I'm out. I can't, like, so like beaten down. There's a dead horse, and you can't even tell it's a dead horse anymore because it's so beaten. And I'm not even a Trump guy. I'm just like turn the page. I don't know. And once you go into specifics about the certain people like involved in this, whatever is happening, it's just like completely over my head. So I had to turn that off. Lil Rel Howery, Live in Crenshaw. First 5 to 10 minutes were about how white people suck. And I was just like, all right, time for another special. Daniel Sloss, some Scottish comedian, The first 5 to 10 minutes were about how he loves kids. He loves kids. And the insinuation is that the audience thinks that he's a pedophile, but he's not. And I was just like, I'm out. So I don't know. If you have more patience than me and you can sit through that shit, but like, damn, man, the first 5 to 10 minutes got to be fire. That's the hook. That's the A material. And it just like, I don't know. It's like, if you just reorder that, put the Trump shit in the middle, maybe, I don't know. But the stand-up special that I do like and I do recommend is Ronnie Chang, Asian Comedian Destroys America. Because he doesn't just target fucking white people. He targets Americans and America and our culture and how we do things and the good and the bad, the pros and the cons. And just his delivery and the way that he talks is hilarious. Like he talks about his tone, dealing with his wife's friends, almost missing his wedding ceremony. So, I mean, it just appealed to me more. So that's a thumbs up from me. We finished up Big Mouth season 3, finally. And I gotta say, I kind of fell off the horse with BoJack Horseman as my like go-to animated comedy or as my go-to comedy. Big Mouth has slowly become like one of the best comedies on TV in a long time. That's made me laugh very hard, laugh out loud funny. But I will say that if you're looking for, winter is depressing as fuck. We all know that. So I'm looking for comedy. I need something to make me laugh, to get me out of this funk. And Big Mouth is definitely one of those shows that will do it. I would say Schitt's Creek is for sure a guaranteed laugh. We're now in season 5. I think season 6 or season 5. I think we finished 5 and now we're in season 6. Like 3 or 4 episodes deep. And Catherine O'Hara, Moira in the show has to be one of the best characters in sitcom history, in TV comedy history. One of the best characters for sure. Her accent, her vocabulary, her looks, her wigs, everything. I mean, every character on in the Rose family is amazing. With like Johnny Rose bringing up the caboose, but still Moira number 1. And then I would actually go David 3. And then I would go Alexis 2. I think Alexis, because of her history of getting like abducted and kidnapped and being in all these ridiculous situations, she's got to be number 2. And then David 3. And then I'd say Johnny 4. So Schitt's Creek definitely, and then The Good Place only ran like I think 4 seasons, but such a good show that has constantly gets painted into a corner and somehow finds a way to get out of that corner and go on a whole new tangent and storyline and still works. So those are the comedy shows if you're looking for a pick me up. The wife also watched Miss Americana, the Taylor Swift documentary that released. And, man, it's hard not to feel for her. But my wife is a huge Taylor Swift fan. And even she was like, some of this felt scripted. Some of this felt forced. Some of this felt like it was very orchestrated. And I agree with her at certain points. Like, it was just like, you're doing this. Why? Like, you don't have to do this. You're doing this because you want more sympathy. You want more. It's tough. She does get an insane. I mean, I can't imagine the level of hate that she gets just for being talented and being successful and rich and whatnot. Like, there's that kind of hate, but then you can kind of see from people who have legitimate beef with her that it does feel like an act sometimes, and then it doesn't feel genuine or authentic. But then there were parts of the documentary where I was like, damn, like, yeah, I really do feel for her, because there was a certain stigma attached to her for that one moment with Kanye. And it just it was hard to shake. And it's probably what Shake It Off came from. Oh my God. Brutal. But it was cool seeing a little bit behind the scenes. And I wonder how much of that is real, thinking about it now, but like how things just came together. It was just like, you have a producer just kind of lays down a beat, and then she has like lyrics, and then they kind of just mesh at some point, and then they're like, yes, that works. But then we have to like do other stuff too. It's like, what? That's how it's done? That's crazy. Also, the fact that she was, I just kept forgetting how young she was. Like, even when I was watching her at the Grammys in like, was it 2015, 2013 or something like that? She was like 23. It was like, oh my God, dude. It felt like she had been on top forever in 2013. By that time that it came around, it felt like she had been around forever. And she hadn't even gotten to like some of her most massive hits yet. Whew. But, you know, she said that she craves the attention, she craves the spotlight, and she needs that validation, which are, you know, I mean, that's a pretty honest, you know, I don't think a lot of celebrities would own up to that. So good for her. I think my wife was hoping for something a little bit more, something different. So, all right, let's finish out the episode by talking about The Pharmacist. This is a 4-episode limited series on Netflix. It's about a father who's a pharmacist. His son gets caught up in a drug deal gone bad in the 9th Ward of New Orleans East. I think that's where it is. St. Bernard's Parish area. And is murdered as a result of the drug deal. He tries to find the murderer. He ends up finding the murderer. And then once that's taken care of, he starts to see a surge in young men and women coming to the pharmacy and filling prescriptions for OxyContin, which was a new painkiller on the market. One of the most potent painkillers that was like, I guess, long, what do they call it? Long release, extended release that can last up to 12 hours. And so he said he saw the face of his son and all the faces of these young people looking for OxyContin, who otherwise appeared very healthy, but also appeared like drug addicts. And so that's kind of where he put 2 and 2 together and was like, okay, that's what happened to my son. He was looking for pills, and that's how he, met his demise. And then, I mean, this guy is just relentless with his pursuit, you know, and other people were just bewildered by him and just like amazed by him. The fact that he's a white dude from like a middle class neighborhood going into, lower class, poor, impoverished area, going door to door, cold calling everyone in the neighborhood, and just looking for answers, and that type of, coming back full circle from what I was talking about before with me being a rat and a pigeon and a snitch. That neighborhood, the woman said it herself, like, snitches get stitches, like it's just not how it works here. And then, due to his tireless pursuit of the truth, and this woman's, relatability to his daughter, she ends up caving after, I don't know how much time, a long time, and coming forward and testifying against the murderer. And you figure that's it. That's okay. They found the murderer. They got him. They convicted him. So that's that. And then no, it like goes off into like the second half of the series where this the father, the pharmacist, is like, I don't want these young people to end up like my son did. I'm gonna stand up to this and make a difference and find out what the fuck is going on, because this is insane. Like, young people are ODing, overdosing left and right on this like pain medication when they're clearly not in severe pain. They don't need it. And so he ends up asking a lot of questions. The fact that this dude recorded everything, and I've thought about that occasionally, and then it makes my brain hurt to think about having to go back and listen to all that and then try and edit it into something that is like digestible. But this dude, nope, no second thoughts about it, like no filter, recorded everything, to the point where his wife and his daughter were going to like punch him in the face. Like, I'm going to punch you in the face if you're recording us right now. Are you recording us? Yeah, of course you're recording us, because now you're talking all smooth. It's just like, oh my God, I don't want to be that dad who's recording everything. But that leads him to this doctor, Cleggett, who runs a pill mill. They call it a pill mill, who is giving out prescriptions like left and right, and was pulling in like close to $2 million a year based off these prescriptions. She was originally like a pediatrician, and then she would just hold office hours at night, and all these people would come from like 203 miles away just to get this like prescription for 40 or 80 milligram OxyContin. Whew. It's a hell of a story. And obviously you should, I recommend it. I give you the thumbs up, but I don't understand. My father was a doctor, and he was not a good, with business. He was not a good business doctor. You can tell, like, I think you can tell when you see a doctor, okay, this doctor is all about referrals, because he gets money for referrals, referring you for things that you probably don't need. Like, that's what happened with me and this one doctor. He's like, oh yeah, you're going to need this, this, and this. Here's a referral for this, this, and this. Because what happens is you get it done, and then that doctor gets like a kickback. I could be completely wrong about that. I never really asked my father about it, but I assume that's why, they do it. They're like, oh, you might have this, you probably have this, you might have this, but just to be sure, you should get checked out. You should go here, here, and here. This specialist, this specialist, this specialist. And then you go there, you give them your business, and I assume a portion of that business, like, gets kicked back to the referring doctor. I don't know. But you can tell, like, you just get in the room, and they're just like going real quick, and it's all about turnover. How many patients can I see in a day? So they'll often double book, triple book, or whatever, because they know a lot of these people, like, probably it's not serious. It's not going to be like life threatening or whatever. It's not going to be fatal, terminal, whatever. So bring them in, ask them a bunch of questions, probably this, and then out. Referral gone. And you don't feel like anyone's listening to you. That was not my father. My father would spend probably too much time talking to his patients, getting to know them, and really trying to get to the bottom of what was causing them pain, and really talking through with them, like, oh, I don't know if you want to do this. And if I had to guess, he probably was against OxyContin. Like, I don't think you need OxyContin. Tylenol will do the job. You don't need it. So I think he had really good bedside manner, as they say. So I see these doctors who are just all about that money, boss. And it's just like, fuck you, dude. You took an oath. And not to get on my high horse, but it looks good from up here. And I don't understand. I just don't understand how you can do the pill mill like that. And for her, they ended up, they did a really good job of teasing the next episode. They did a fantastic job of like, we're going to give you a small glimpse of this, like the shocking, like new development or the shocking new subject that you didn't think was going to be appearing in the series. And then we're going to cut to black, and that next episode button comes up from Netflix, and you're just like, well, gotta watch another one. And that's kind of what happened with Dr. Cleggett. And, when they interviewed her, you could just tell something was off. It was just like, something's not right here. Like, did she have a stroke? She just, eventually she gets into it, and she says that she was in a really bad car crash, fell asleep in the passenger seat, and the driver was going 80 miles per hour into like trees or something like that. And she had a hangman injury, like basically the same injury you would get if you would try to hang yourself, which that kind of set up some flags like, well, maybe she did try to hang herself and commit suicide. But that's just a conspiracy, Jeffrey Epstein conspiracy in me. But ended up having hemorrhaging and, brain injuries. And so her vocal cords were damaged. And so she speaks in, a certain way because of all these injuries. And you have to think that it's because of these injuries and also because of her substance abuse, like her also abusing OxyContin, that, her memory is probably shit. She probably doesn't remember all the people that died because of the prescriptions she handed out. Something like from the time that they put up a graphic at the end that was really disturbing. It was like from the time that Dan Schneider, the pharmacist, kind of started his crusade in 2000, 2001 to the time that Purdue Pharma, who's like the OxyContin distributor or manufacturer, producer, by the time that they were, I guess, subpoenaed and taken down from a legal standpoint, it was 18 years, 19 years, and 400,000 people had died from OxyContin overdose. Dude, I know I'm an asshole. I say some really fucked up shit, but like, god damn, that's your legacy? I'm going to make pills that I know for a fact are addictive. They're going to fucking just wipe out a whole bunch of people. And then I'm going to also try and capitalize on that addiction by opening like addiction centers after saying that they're not addictive. Jesus. And to make billions in the process and then declare bankruptcy, whatever. God damn, dude. I mean, there's got to be a better way to make a buck, Cleggett, dude. I mean, like, your pediatrician, it's not working out, and you just stumble upon this thing, and you're like, oh, well. And I could see her, like, not false logic, but it's how she copes with prescribing, a death sentence, basically, is to say like, well, we don't really know pain. You can never tell how much pain someone's in because it's not visible. It's not, whatever. It's basically off of what the patient says. So the patient could say they're a 10 when really they're a 1. And so, that was kind of her defense. But, he talked to other doctors, like that one doctor, I can't remember her name, but she's like, there are tests. You can be a little more thorough about it. You can't just, they said that Cleggett would just had a whole mess of prescriptions that were just all, written out, already pre-written out before even meeting the patient. All she had to do was like sign and date it or something like that. Like, that's not good, dude. I honestly thought that Dan Schneider and his wife were going to get divorced. His wife is so fucking funny. She's like such a character. And I was thinking to myself, how the hell did these two get together? Because like you see them, they kept on interviewing them in separate rooms, like individually, not together. And I was just like, this is not good. They're going to reveal that like they actually got divorced because Dan was such a psycho about this. that Annie, or the wife, could not take it anymore and just ended up divorcing him. But nope, still together, still strong. You're kind of like, I can't believe that she's with him, because he doesn't seem like the type that she would be into, and he just seems like he's puttering around and obsessive, and she's kind of more, well, not laissez-faire, but just more casual and not concerned, caught up in so much shit. And it's like, no, I guess they're literally the yin and the yang. Tunnel of Hope is the name of his organization that he started, which I you hear Tunnel of Hope and you're like, whatever, it's cheesy. But then you hear the backstory about it, like, him driving down this road that he and his son used to drive down, and it's like these big oak trees lining the road, and they kind of come together over the road to make what looked like a tunnel. I thought that was pretty cool. He's very into God. He was a very religious guy, which normally it would be a turnoff, but like he kind of just mildly peppered it in here and there, and it was it's interesting to hear people that I perceive as being having above average intelligence, or at least the wherewithal to kind of do this, to still have such faith in God. I think that's really interesting. Even when your son is taken at such a young age, 19, 20 years old, and just being like, God's plan. God's took him for a reason, and we're gonna meet him. We're gonna meet Danny when our time is up, and blah blah. It's just like, to have that kind of attitude. More power to you. It's a strength that I do not know. But yeah, fuck corrupt doctors. Stating the obvious. Kind of interesting though that we think about that Katrina was happened over the course of this documentary as well, because it starts in like 99, and then right where Dan Schneider starts to hit his stride and start to take off, that's when Katrina happens, and it's like everything gets way worse, because that's how people dealt with everything that happened, all the loss. So it's just more and more people were turning to like drugs and alcohol and OxyContin to kind of numb themselves. Very interesting how these things are all playing out in my life. Not to be like, obviously this is narcissistic, but the fact that like, I talk about, I just wanted to be numb, and putting Vicodin in my vodka soda, calling it a snow globe, to now watching this and being like, oh, well, yeah, I guess like that's one way to go about life. But also to like watch Parasite, and then to get an actual parasite in my stomach that caused food poisoning. I guess you can't call it a parasite, but it was like a bacteria. Something bad was in there. I'm going to call it a parasite because it sounds cooler. Yeah, but that's the show. Coming in hot at 2 hours and 14 minutes. Check me out on all the social media that I don't post to, because I don't have a goddamn time. Real Cinch on Twitter, on Instagram and YouTube. Go to facebook.com/giantmess. Give the hotline a call. Let me hear that sweet voice of yours, because I know you got the voice of an angel. 862-BIT-1986. 862-BIT-1986. And we'll talk Giants and Mets next time, dude. Because it is a giant mess. And I'm a giant mess. And this has been Giant Mess. So adios, muchachos.